Well, the battle against ISIS militants taking a heavy toll on government security forces. CNN's Chelsea Carter joins us now live from Baghdad with an exclusive look at Iraq's rapidly rising number of casualties. And we're talking military casualties. I know you got into a medical facility. You were able to talk to the people in there. What did you see? What did you hear?
Well, it was a very rare visit and a rare look at getting in to see soldiers who've been wounded in combat. What we saw was room after room after room of wounded soldiers and border guards, broken legs, gunshot wounds, shattered knees. It was really something.
I'm curious, just paint a picture for us by telling us about perhaps one case that struck home for you.
I think the one case that really hit home for me was the story of Wad Karim, 29 years old, a border guard at Al-Qaim. When ISIS swept in through the Syrian border into Iraq and started to battle for that border crossing, he and 10 others of his colleagues fled. They ran 6 kilometers through the desert to what he said was a police station, hoping to get help. When they got there, it was empty. They barricaded themselves inside. He said that they made the stand with very little weapons and ammunition that they had left. At that point, somebody came up with an idea. As one by one they started to fall and die. When it was only 3 of them left, Wad told me that they decided to. He barely got out of the building and around the corner when his legs were just shattered with gunshots. His 2 comrades dragged him until they found an army truck. Him to Baghdad. The worst part is he started to cry. Clear that he was really emotional. What he saw. His mother sat there wiping his head, putting her hand on his forehead, doing as much as she could to kind of keep him calm. I think that the biggest question for him is, will he ever walk again? His leg is in pieces. It's being held together by a rod. When I asked him what he would do from here on out, he said he didn't know. Right now, he just wanted to get home.
What an extraordinary tale. I mean, I'm curious, your take from the accounts that you heard. Did you get a sense of how the battle against ISIS is going, or at least how they feel it's going?
The stories were all pretty much in the same vein. We heard a lot of leadership issues. We heard a lot of communications issues. We heard a lot of ammunition issues, short supply issues from these soldiers and border guards. I think what it paints is, we've heard from the ministry about successes, and they are having successes. But I spoke to one man, Ali Ahmed, who has been up into Crete. This has been a very big battle recently. They're really fighting to take back. This is Saddam Hussein's hometown. And while they've had successes, the picture he painted was pretty stark. It was a situation of he and his unit running out of water, running out of food. One of the things he said that surprised me the most was that was how well coordinated the ISIS fighters were. At one point he said to me that the fighters were on the radio and he could hear them. And they sort of figured out the code that they were using. 01 meant they had 1 wounded. 02 meant they had 2 wounded. So they are very well organized, and that is what surprised him. I spoke with another gentleman who just came out of the Battle of Ramadi. He was shot yesterday, brought into the hospital last night, and his story was how well armed that ISIS fighters were and how surprised he was. They were having a battle on the street. He said at some point they started to run out of ammunition. They radioed back to base. They were told to pull back. As they did, he was shot by a sniper in the leg and in the arm. And as we talked to him, the wounds were so fresh, blood was still seeping from the bandages.
And one final thing, too, because there was so much criticism when ISIS came in over the Syrian border and the Iraqi forces, there's so many billions spent on training them and all the like, and they just seemed to evaporate, to vanish, to flee from the fight. Did you get a sense from these guys, at least, that they were of the ilk to stand and fight?
Well, clearly the troops in the north collapsed. I mean, that's known. But what I took away from this was these are men coming from the front line. They are standing and fighting and trying to take back Iraq. I mean, I think they're very committed to this. I think they have a very long fight ahead of themselves. I think they realize this now. I mean, that was the message that I got walking out of that hospital today, which was really extraordinary.